hello, Dustin.
What's up, ma'am?
Hey.
Here we are.
It's been a bit since we've recorded an episode. The week we're releasing it.
It's true. It's true.
You're getting the hot, fresh Hoopercast this week, everyone.
And I apologize. I'm trying to finish some apples very quickly.
Oh, dude, I had to stop eating apples.
Really? Why?
So I'm technically allergic to them.
Well, yeah, that would be a good reason to stop then.
Not like Kellen is, I won't like die, but I'm technically allergic to them. And for years I was like, well, I've been eating apples. I guess everything's fine. But then you kind of realize that like being allergic to a food also means like your body, the reaction to it might be subtle. And I realized doing like a food journal, I realized like, apples like contributed to like really, really bad gas for me. Like horrific, like hot, you know what I mean? Like when your farts are just real hot.
Is it an
smelly.
allergy or is it just like the fiber in the apples or both?
I don't know. I don't know, but like I called back to it and I was like, I remember I saw like some sheet of my allergies that I got when I was a kid, and like apples was on there as like a food allergy. And I don't remember my parents saying anything about that. But it's on that thing. And so it could be the fibers, or it could just be like, hey, since you are allergic to it, it's a little bit worse for you. Like your stomach has trouble with it. Sure. So I stopped eating them, which sucks because I love apples. I used to eat them every day. And, and it's better. It's better. So
I did these today with like a little drizzle of honey. So good, man.
Oh, well, I don't have anything that you can't eat, but I am enjoying a tiny shot of whiskey tonight. So. Okay. I know you choose not to have this, but I'm just going to pretend like I pull one over on you.
Okay. Sounds good.
The alcohol tells me I win, Dustin. All right.
Okay. Well, I have a Spider-Man cup with water in it.
Oh, I've also got a large water as well, but not Spider-Man.
Doesn't have Spider-Man.
Former employer. So you win again.
Spider-Man, Scorpion.
That's
everybody.
Cool
Mysterio, Alistair Smythe.
Oh, okay.
Remember that dude?
You pulled out all the stops.
I love that everybody's like, the Scorpion, the Shocker, Venom, Alistair Smythe.
Henchman number 3.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're here tonight to talk about Mission Impossible 7. So hope everyone enjoyed the Screen Mission recaps we did. And now we're here. It's here. It is now. We made it. So let's talk about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Our lives are the sum of our choices. And we cannot escape the past. Ethan, this mission of yours is gonna cost you dearly.
The world is changing. Truth is vanishing. War is coming.
It's been a long time, friend. You've no idea the power I represent. It knows your story and how it ends.
Listen to me. The world's coming after you.
His fate is written. Shall we write yours too?
If anything happens to them, there's no place that I won't go to kill you. That is written.
Ethan, what's your objective? What's your ultimate objective?
Your life will always matter more to me than my own.
then none of our lives can matter more than this mission.
I don't accept that.
So I saw this in a theater, just like you did.
Yes.
Just like anyone who's listening at this point would have. And if you haven't seen the film yet,
Unless you're a thief.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it, and then we'll get into spoilers and stuff for those who have seen it. But Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is the 7th film in this series. There's gonna be part 2 next year. It's directed by Christopher McQuarrie, written by Christopher McQuarrie and Eric Jendrison.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a lot of returning cast and some new faces. We got Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Esai Morales, Pom Clementieff, Mariella Garriga, and Henry Czerny.
And Carrie Elways.
How do you say his name? Yeah, he's not even on this list. Come on, Wikipedia.
Come on,
Kaylin. All right. Well, anyway, so the film's in theaters now. You can go see it. You should go see it. And
yes.
we'll talk about why. Yeah, this movie, I got to see this at the Nexus. My wife and I went. We actually went on like a date night and saw the films because we had caught up on the movies together. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. I will say it kind of sucked because at a certain point, like right about the midpoint, either it started happening or I just started noticing it. My screening AV was out of sync.
Oh, really?
It was, and it was pretty subtle. It was within a few frames. And then at some point, I feel like it started falling more. And so after a while, I was like, I'm going to say something to Tara. And I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything. And then later she told me hey, did you notice it was out of sync? And I was like, she's like, I knew that was driving you crazy. And I was like, I know it was. I just didn't want to bring it to your attention and ruin it for you. And it just made me wonder, because when that happens in the theater, not only does it bother me, but I'm sitting there like, other people must notice this, right?
Right.
And then if I'd heard the guy next to me say, looks like the sound was off, I would have screamed, because the confirmation that everyone notices this would bother me.
Yep.
So, so that I had to sort of really push and focus for the third act. And
sure.
Because for a while, Dustin, I thought the film had so many J and L cuts for the audio, and I didn't understand. I was like, what's with these half-second J cuts? And after a while, I was like, oh, the fucking thing's out of sync.
Yep. Yep.
It was killing me.
Yeah, man.
And that's never happened at the Nexus before.
Yeah, I've never had, I don't think I've ever had that happen in a movie, but I have had what happened to me during this screening happen before, which is that the lights don't dim. And I hate that. Yeah, it just stays completely bright.
For the whole film?
Yeah, it's as if I could kind of tell it was going to happen because you walk in and it's all the lights are on, they just were cleaning.
Yeah.
And then they're playing all the before the preview stuff and then the previews, and it's yeah, this isn't going to change, is it? And so you're sitting there waiting, and I guess I should just I feel bad. I'm not going to go to the lobby and be like, hey, it hasn't changed yet, and just have them go, well, the movie hasn't started yet, bro.
Right, exactly.
And then I'm like, okay, fine. So now I have to wait till the movie starts just to go to the lobby and say, hey, the lights didn't dim, you idiots.
Yeah, and I there was a part of me, there was a twofold issue for me. One, it was okay, well, we're in the third act. I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
And also I just sort of, I had this arrogance, I'm too old to be having to leave the theater. I'm not doing this anymore, Yeah. Because this has happened to me in one form or another several times in the last 10 years. The AV has been out of sync, or the sound isn't all there. And I've had my wife be like, well, maybe it's just supposed to sound that way. And it's no, it's not mixed right. I'm telling you, it's mixed. It's something's not, they don't have, it's someone muted a couple of the sub tracks or whatever.
Sure.
I could tell. I was this just doesn't sound the way a movie sounds.
Yeah.
We're the score was dimmed or something for one movie I saw. And anyway, well,
I'll let you in on a little secret. So first of all, I mean, it's easy for this to happen, right? For instance, the lighting is built into the show automation. So when they hit play on the entire sequence, which includes all of the, pre-show stuff, trailers, movie, that built into that are lighting changes,
lighting cues.
And it would be very simple for them to get missed when they're building the stack, right? So it happens, right? That's
Sure.
all, error. It's fine. The problem is when they don't know how to fix it, or they don't fix it fast enough, or stuff like that. The issue that you had, I think, is a lot harder to have happen. But it does happen. And in that case, the theater owner, or, whoever's running that screening, the projectionist, should stop the film, and fix the issue, and then either resume the film or return the film back to the beginning, or whatever they have to do in order to do that. Right. And like I remember you and I and John, when we saw Thor, they did that. I don't remember what happened, but do you remember we were in Savannah and we watched Thor, and we got about 20 minutes in, and I don't know if John got up to tell him or what happened.
I remember this.
But something happened, and they ended up actually re-racking the whole thing, and so we saw the first 20 minutes twice.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God, I forgot about that. You're right.
Man. So like it happens, and that's fine as long as the theater is like apologetic. But here's the thing. As streaming has risen, and as people are less likely to go to the theaters now is the time for theaters to really make sure everything is working.
Yeah, their shit's all tight.
Yeah, it's got to be tight every single time. There's no room for error anymore. Like the masking is off, the lighting is off, the tracks are off. You mentioned the sound, right? So if we're talking about actual sound in the room, those when they're supposed to every so often have somebody out to tune the projectors and make sure that they're shooting color and focus correctly. At that same time, they should be shooting tuning the room's audio and making sure that each individual speaker is routed correctly, left, center, right, left's around, right's around, all of these things. And they don't always do that. And so, that can be an issue too. So
quality control.
Yeah, I've had that issue too, where it's like, I don't think the left surround is working, or whatever it may be, or, it's just not mixed correctly. And that sucks.
It's the only time that you wish you were watching like a file that had like centered every single music track and like, whatever, flattened it onto one.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Just like
one mono mix.
Yeah. There's no way it can be, we can leave out anything because it's all in one track.
It's all there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, like the onus is on the theaters to make sure they're doing their job, and they don't always.
Well, regardless, mostly the movie was still played fine. It was a minor thing. It was annoying, but I sort of also knew like, okay, cool. So like, at least when like a punch was strangely timed with its sound, I just sort of was like, okay, like I'll enjoy this. It's fine. I'm going to watch this movie again. Like I'll enjoy it then. I just have to let go of the fact that I can't like watch it as intended.
Sure.
So, oh well. Once I got over that, I really enjoyed the movie. I had to do some work after the fact to make sure the base plot was as simple as I hoped it was, as I assumed it was. Like on the way home, I was like, yeah, let's run through the plot real quick, and try to figure, so, but anyway, but the basic plot of the movie is that an AI has become self-aware, basically, and Ethan Hunt plans to destroy it before other governments or interested parties seize control of it first. That is the plot of this film. And you don't really need to know more than that. There's not much to know than that. I thought the performances in this movie were really, really great from everyone, most notably Cruise himself and Haley Atwell, who's new to this franchise. I thought she was really great. Everyone's great, but, those two especially. I'm really excited for part 2. What I liked about this movie was that it was a film. It felt like a film in itself structurally, even though it's a part 1, the film has a 3-act structure with a climax and a denouement. And while there's plot threads that will continue into the next film, much of what's introduced here is resolved. There's not many payoffs that we have to wait for part 2. Which was very smart. And I can't say that necessarily for other part 1s lately. Across the Spider-Verse being one of them. I felt like that was, even though it's fine, it's a cliffhanger, like whatever, that's what it does. I felt with Across the Spider-Verse, like, all right, but there's a little bit of like dissatisfaction I have now that the film is over. And I didn't have that here. I was like, okay, cool. Like I feel like I watched a movie. The way that movies leading into sequels used to feel. There's more coming, but I got everything I needed this time.
Yeah, sure.
Another good example of this recently is Dune. Dune was the same way. There's more coming, but I just watched a whole movie, you know?
Yep.
I didn't care for some of the handheld cinematography in this, just compared to Fallout, which I thought was just beautifully shot. I understand that many of the fights in this film occur in tight quarters, so I'm not sure what I necessarily expected from them in terms of their cameras. Like, I'll get off their backs, but just as a viewing experience, I just prefer action to be clearer and less of a headache to take in.
Yeah.
But in the true set pieces that matter, those are carried out in very impressive, very wide shots or drone shots or helicopter shots. And once again, it's just insane how much this film is for real. And so the movie was great. I don't know on the first watch if I like it as much as Rogue Nation or Fallout. But that being said, it is a part one. And we also don't know if these films are it for the franchise or if there's going to be more after even part two.
Yeah.
So anyways, those are my basic thoughts. We can talk more after I hear your thoughts, Dustin. What did you think?
Yeah, I mostly agree. I mean, I think for me, like Across the Spider-Verse did work in the same way that this worked, in the same way that Dune worked, which is it's a full film. It doesn't feel like some of, I won't name names, but other films that definitely felt like, oh, this is just half the story. You just like stopped it. And this felt like a fully functional film in and of itself. I think, in terms of where it falls on my favorite Mission Impossible film, timeline, I think I like Fallout's still a masterpiece. Fallout's my favorite. Rogue Nation and this are pretty close, and I think on different days I could go either way on which I like second best. And there's certainly some really standout set pieces here, and some really great characterization that I thoroughly enjoyed. And it's clear that Macquarie is trying to posit Ethan Hunt in a way that previous filmmakers never did, which is as a character, as a human being with wants, desires, feelings, and, and dreams. And most importantly in this film, a past that we've really known nothing about. And so to have even a little bit here of what Ethan may have been like prior to IMF is interesting. And so I really appreciate that they're taking Ethan Hunt seriously as a character, because I think a lot of times these movies, just say like, okay, look, you got a stoic, tough man who can do anything, and that's all you need. And I think that can be all you need if the film calls for that. But I've always said Mission Impossible should rise above that. Ethan, up until I'd say, like the first two films, he's kind of flat. And by the third one, when they start introducing Julia and this whole like romantic subplot, they're just begging us to get to know Ethan better. And it's smart that they're carrying that on. And so we've kind of learned where he pictured his life going, and then have that taken away from him, and then try to rebuild. And then now we're getting a peek at like who made him the way that he is. And of course there's much more to come on that, I'm sure. But I thought that was maybe the most interesting thing that I didn't expect, which is just backstory of Ethan's character. I think that we can talk specifics in a minute, but like I said, there are just some really great standout set pieces here that I think are among the best of the series. Combine that with the characterization and with the fact that this does feel like a full film, and I think you've got a high recommendation for me. I gave it 4 stars, which is technically less than my Rogue Nation, which is 4.5, but I think it's interchangeable and it could go either way. So, do I recommend you see this in theaters? Absolutely, I do. I mean, there's a lot here that's real, and what's real is great. And there's a lot here that just begs to be seen on the big screen and before you get spoiled. And yeah, man, I enjoyed a lot about this movie. So it is a recommend in theaters for me, for sure. So I think that's it. And we can talk specifics in a minute.
One of the things that recently came to my attention, really, I hadn't thought about it too much, but like I hadn't put my finger on what it was. But I realized that one of the things I don't like about Rogue Nation is that for all the stuff they do for real, they cover a lot of it up with CG.
Yes.
And they do that in Fallout too, a little, not as much, but they do it with the Halo jump. Like they do this really impressive Halo jump that Tom Cruise actually did. They actually filmed, and 90% of the frame is a CG storm.
Yeah.
And you don't get to, like, you sort of go like, okay, I know this is for real, but it sure looks like it could have been done in just a wind tunnel. Like it doesn't have to be real. I don't know. So like outside of the film, it's cool, but within the film, it's not that impressive. And then the same thing with the water tank heist in Rogue Nation. Like the fact that Tom Cruise learned to hold his breath for 6 minutes seems immaterial when you watch that sequence, because so much of the structure they're in is CG.
Yeah.
And so I'm not aware, at least on the first watch, of if they even did that with this. I watched a lot of, I didn't watch them before the film, but I went back and watched a lot of the YouTube videos that Paramount released about some of these sequences.
Yep.
I mean, first of all, there's a 20-minute sequence in this film where Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell are driving through the streets of Paris, and they're in this tiny little car and they're handcuffed to each other. And that's real. The two of them had to learn like stunt drive, and they're driving a car with camera rigs on it. They're not on like a trailer being towed. They are driving, and it's crazy.
Yes.
And it's even crazier when you know that it's real. And that's really cool. And so this film does a better job than those previous films of like, we did real stuff and we're not going to obscure it.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, Dead Reckoning, how's this doing at the box office? It says here that it's technically like not performing up to expectations, box office wise. Cause the budget for this one film is $291 million. So as of today, it's made $239 million. But there was a disclaimer here. It says something like, while the film fell short of expectations after it turned out a much lower opening weekend than expected, Deadline Hollywood noted that unlike Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, another nearly 3-hour film that cost around $300 million and opened to $83 million over its first 5 days, Dead Reckoning Part 1 benefited from better critic and audience scores, and it noted that Cruise's films normally hold steady at the box office in subsequent weeks. Yeah. So the analysis there being like, it's going to stay strong and consistent. I mean, Maverick was the same way. Maverick sat there and just collected money for like 10 weeks or so. Like a
long time. It
cleaned up. There wasn't a big drop off. And I think that the reason you see big drop offs on recent Marvel films like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp at Quantumania. I forget that's in the title. But like Quantumania had a big drop off because like, it was big and marketed and it's a big event film. But after those people see it, there's not like there's not like a wake of people who are coming in afterwards and taking part. Whereas a film like this, like people see it who want to see it. And then people like you and me tell everyone, hey, this was really worth it. You should check it out. And then like that second wave comes, and then that first wave of people comes back, and then the third and second waves come back, and then the third and fourth waves come back. And it's just like a nice little overlap of people seeing it twice, you know?
Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how it does, but it's certainly not as big a disappointment as like Indiana Jones is for Disney. So yeah, I mean, I think it still stands the chance at turning a real profit. So we'll see. One of the things I want to talk about is some of the specific set pieces, but also maybe a couple of critiques I have of the film.
Do you want to know, are these spoiler things?
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably help if we talk spoilers.
All right.
But I mean, that's our general rec, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're listening and that's it, like you should see the film. definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about spoilers.
Yeah. So first things first, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to pull up like a plot breakdown to remember what order all of these set pieces happen in. But the first one I want to talk about is, well, you know what? You just mentioned the car chase scene. So let's talk about that. Yeah, super impressive. I knew that most of it was real. I think it's difficult to kind of say what is and what isn't, but maybe it is all real. But regardless, super impressive. And for a franchise that's had a lot of car chases already, this one certainly is able to stand above the pack.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple things though that I would critique in that, and the first is length. I mean,
Yes.
I think it's too long.
It is too long.
It goes on forever, man.
That's one of those classic things of like, we spent so much money and like labor and time to get the actors to this point. There's no way we're cutting this down at all.
Right, like, exactly.
I understand, but it is a few minutes too long.
Yes, it just seems like it goes forever because they get out into the street, they get stopped by the police and by Pom Klementif and like it's like this whole like Mexican standoff type deal, like from a spaghetti western for a second, and then. And then suddenly they're in the car and they're moving and they're moving and they're moving. And then like one thing after another. And then finally they move into a different car and then a different car. And then it's just like, man, it just keeps going. And at a certain point, my mind, it's not that it's not engaging and it's not that it's not interesting and it's not that I'm not having fun with it, but my mind just goes, how much longer can this possibly be? Like if I were writing this, I'd be like slamming my head against the keyboard going, I cannot think of anything else that a car can possibly do. Like, how do I make this more interesting? But it's too long. And I think some of the comedy in that, it's not that it falls flat. It's that it feels tonally out of place. So for me, there's the moment where they get, you have the moment where they're like walking up to the safe car and there's this really nice, I don't know what it is, like a Bentley or something out there.
Yeah.
And then like that little small car, the little Fiat like comes out from behind it. And it's like, okay, that's cute. That's clever. That's the punchline. Yep. But then they get in and there's like a whole thing where they accidentally turn on the windshield wipers and they're like, I don't know how to like do the thing.
That's right.
And then like Tom Cruise is like, acting in a weird way. Like you never see Tom act this, but he's acting like, and especially as Ethan, but he's acting a little like dumbfounded and awkward. And he's like, these things just sometimes take me a minute to acclimate to, and it's like, again, it's not that it's not funny or that it falls flat necessarily. It's that why? Like
I think
we're in
that's
the middle of a high octane car chase.
That's the thing. It's misplaced. Like I think that I think the intention there is they're trying to retain that back foot element to the Christopher McQuarrie missions where like things happen and so like stuff doesn't quite work the way it's meant to right away. Yeah. They're trying to introduce a little bit of friction in how the IMF operates so that it's just less like a cool spy movie where everything goes right all the time. But it is unfortunately, it does slow down this chase. Like I understand why they have to get in the police car first and then they have the standoff that happens because that establishes everyone that's chasing them. But for the sake of length, I would have found a way to just have them get in the yellow car immediately, and just have the chase start there, but so that nothing's interrupting it.
Yeah, and it is true. Like there's what I do like about McQuarrie's take on this world is exactly what you just said. Like he's very interested in the details and the minutia of like, well, how does this work?
Right.
Or does it work immediately?
Right.
Or it is imperfect, and that kind of stuff I think is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't dislike that. I think it was just the comedy element for me. I'm like, I was revved up and ready to go on this set piece here, and you just kind of like derailed it. And I think all you need is the punchline of walk up to nice car, little tiny Fiat comes out. That's it. And then boom, smash cut, they're cruising, and like they don't need all of those jokes. That already was a joke. If anything, it's car comes out, cut to, they close the doors, they get in and they start to drive and it like jerks or does something weird. And Tom's like, give me a second. got it, boom, and it's like, that's all you would really need to establish the idea of like, it's not perfect, right? Give me a second, let me acclimate to it, whatever. But just take some of the filler out. And I think that's probably true for a lot of things in the movie. Like I did notice, maybe about halfway through the film, I started thinking there's a lot here that I think is filler. And again, not that it isn't engaging, but you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talked about the plot being very simple. It is very simple.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it justifies an almost 3-hour runtime.
Right.
I think it could have easily been 2 hours or 2:15, and we would have been fine.
Yeah, it would have been okay.
A-okay with me to get in and out in 2 hours. Are you going to lose some stuff? Sure. But some of this is really long. Like there's that sequence where they go to the club, that like party that the White Widow's throwing, or I guess the entity is, and they're in there.
Do you like my party? Sorry.
Please enjoy the refreshment. I brought Mountain Dew. Research says humans like Mountain Dew.
And Red Bull.
And this film brought to you by Mountain Dew. That's I'm interested to know how many pages that scene was, because that felt like, that dialogue to me felt like this is like a 15-page scene. This is ridiculous, the amount of information that's being doled out here.
It's true.
And again, I was engaged the whole time. And I like, so he has a way of writing the script in a way where it's like, okay, I'm going to write this dialogue that it's kind of quick. It's really important. You need to pay attention. And I'm engaged the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But I am sitting there going, at the end of the day, like, yeah, you could have done that a little quicker. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the name of the game. Like we see Haley Atwell put the key in the brother's pocket.
Yeah.
And it feels like, well, they don't let you forget it, and that's great. There's always like little cuts, or it's like it just in frame, the pocket is or whatever.
Right.
Like that's great. But at the end of the day, I'm like, there's like 20 minutes in between the placing of that and the actual like payoff
like
to that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like that, and it's just a lot of talking in between. Again, engaging talking, but you can do it a little bit quicker. And I think that's sort of like, case in point for me is there's just a lot of like, all right, come on, just speed it up a little bit. But I do want to talk about the airport sequence. The airport sequence toward the beginning of the film is one of the best sequences in any Mission Impossible movie. For me. I loved that sequence, both the way it begins with Ethan, bringing Luther and Benji in. Yeah. And then, Benji has that great line, like, I think Luther says like, this is treason. And then Benji's like, or just a Monday, right? Right. Like it's very like, okay, this is great. And so then they, get in there and there's cool gadgets, there's cool spy stuff. People are like disappearing in real time. It's like, there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff going on. And at a certain point, they're like, Ethan is being chased and chasing and like being chased by two people. Right. So there's like all of these different like plots and subplots happening. And then Benji gets distracted trying to defuse a bomb at the same time. And I'm like, this is long, but it's freaking fantastic. Yeah. I loved everything about that entire sequence. And I don't know how long it was. It felt like a half hour, but I'm like, I loved it. It was so good. And it even ended with a classic cruise run on the rooftop. Yeah. And I'm like, this is like everything Mission Impossible is. Yeah. It distilled into one scene, and I love it. Or one sequence. And yeah, man, I really enjoyed that. And the way they introduced Haley Atwell's character in that I thought was really effective. And yeah, it did a lot of things right there off the get-go.
Yeah, I agree. That airport sequence is great. Yeah, what'd you think of the train sequence?
I enjoyed the train sequence. I thought it was maybe a little showboaty at times, like look at all the cool stuff we can do. But I thought it was great, and I'd be interested to know how much of that was practical and how much of that. Yeah,
they actually shot on the top of a moving train.
Did they? That's awesome.
Like they're wired like to the top of it, but like the two of them are like up there. Like you should go look. You should go on Paramount's YouTube page. They have a few of these things.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, like it's kind of and they built that train like Chris McCord is like, there's just not trains you can just acquire and crash. Like, so they built a train and they used some defunct track or something like that. I don't know, but like it's crazy. Like you watch this movie and you just sort of go like, like 40 years ago, this is what they would have just had to do.
Yep.
Like if you want a train sequence, you have to
film on a train.
You need to film on a train. And
yep.
And it's a nice callback. A lot of people pointed out like that there's a lot of like visual and story callbacks to like the first film. Of course, the train, Kittredge being on the train, and just being in the film. Someone pointed out there's a lot of like those Dutch angles in this movie that remind people of the De Palma film. I don't think there's a shot from Kittredge's lap this time, but
sure.
So in this film, again, we're in spoilers. So in this film, Ilsa is apparently killed. I don't know that I believe that her character is dead.
Yeah.
There's no like reason the film gives that it's like, oh, well, maybe she's alive. There's no like hope the film gives you.
Yeah.
But there's just a lack of ceremony and closure for her character. And that's the only reason I would say like, I don't think her character is dead. Like they don't acknowledge it. They move on as if she's dead, but like, there's no like Ethan visiting her grave, and some other scene that solidifies her death. We don't even know what they do with her body, for Christ's sake. Like,
leave it.
Where is it?
Just leave it there.
What did they do with it? So they can't really address that because anything they do is sort of a clue that she's not dead. Well, it's, we've got it back at base. Like, why? Like, oh, we buried her. Well, then she's dead. Like, so it's kind of a little bit ambiguous, and I feel like could have been done a little better, maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. It just depends. But
it seems weird that in the same movie they fake her death and then they have her death. And I knew at the beginning, I'm like, yo, she ain't dead, because there's no way that he just wanders up on her and she's dead face down in the dirt. Like, there's no way that happens. So I knew immediately, like, okay, she's not dead. She's going to pop back up in a minute. And of course she did. And then, but then at the, in that scene, I'm like, I don't know if they're about to kill her or not. And I'm trying to like feel it out. Like, what did they do to provide any sort of closure or any sort of, resonance to this moment?
Yeah.
And so they did a couple things. One, they have that little moment where she says, my first time in Venice, and Ethan says, it's mine too. And they kind of like snuggle up to each other on the balcony. They hold
hands, damn it.
And then they hold hands in the very like smash cut to them holding hands on the boat.
That is the first overt sign of a romantic connection between the two of them.
Yep.
These two have only ever hugged each other.
I believe he kisses her on that rooftop.
I can't remember.
As so they're dissolving between, so she like snuggles up to him and puts her head in like, the crook of his neck or whatever. Yeah. And I believe as it's dissolving to the next scene, you can see Ethan put his like mouth on the top of her head. I'm pretty sure. And so, I was like, okay, so yeah, I mean, I guess that's some level of like, okay, they're romantically involved.
Yeah.
And her death will now mean something more than just, another agent killed in the field. Yeah. I get it. But I felt like if you were going to do that, you have to go all the way and show them like really like this is a for real thing. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't make it up like they're an item.
Yep.
But then I guess you run the risk of being like playing your hand and being like, let me show them as an item and then put her in mortal danger. And we're about to kill her to, motivate our hero. So either way, you kind of lose. And that kind of sucks. But like, I don't know if I think she's dead. I mean, I think at this point, if she isn't dead, it's going to be another weird cop out of like, she's faked her death a couple times now. And so it's weird that it wouldn't that this time is or it isn't, right? Like it's weird either way.
Yeah.
And so I don't know which way I want it to go. Like I kind of want it to go that she isn't dead because, I just love the two of them together.
Yes.
But then I also think, okay, well, but that's good motivation. And I can totally see at the end him doing something and dying and it being like, I'll get, whatever, like it's a poetic thing. She's dead, so I'm dead. Or it's, I'm going to visit her grave. And that's how we ended is, him visiting the grave of the woman he loved. But then it's like, man, but we already kind of did the thing with Julia where he had a love and lost it.
Yeah.
I kind of hate for them to retread that. And then there's almost, maybe I'm wrong, but there's almost a weird tension between him and Haley Atwell.
And and I don't want them to go that direction.
Yeah.
I don't want him to just suddenly just move on to this new younger chick.
Right.
Again, it sort of depends on if they're ending the series with the next film. But to me, like they're building to something with the two of them and they were building to it gradually and respectfully to her without shortchanging her character. So I feel like, I don't know. It's going to really depend on how the next film is executed. And whether or not she's in it. I know that her name is nowhere on the page for that, but if everyone's doing their jobs, it wouldn't be.
Right.
So I don't know. I do hope she's alive because I think that, one, I can see them pulling some sort of like fun, like, look, here's how I did it, like flashback down, like here's how I faked my death, but like, since we haven't been shown everything, it just feels like a hastened choice that doesn't really pay off. Yeah. All it really does is propel Haley Atwell's character into action because she now feels guilt that this person who didn't have to save her came back to save her. And now she's propelled into action. And that's nice. And that all works. But the fact that the person who died is a character I've known for 3 movies and the character who's alive is a new character. I like you and everything, but like, I'm not really that happy that you're alive and she's dead.
Right.
And by the end of the film, I don't feel glad that Ilsa's dead. I don't feel like she made some sort of noble sacrifice. I feel like she saved someone and I don't necessarily buy that this one dude, just because he's the super evil guy, could have pulled one over on her and killed her that easily.
I can totally see them doing something like, in order to pull one over on the entity, we have to make the entity believe that she's dead.
Right.
So in order for that to happen, we have to, fake all of this stuff. I get it. But I also feel, and I can even see them keeping that secret from Benji and from Luther.
Yeah, like you're saying her and Ethan are in on it.
It's just the two of them.
Yeah.
It's like a secret plan that just the two of them had.
Yeah.
But I could also see, I don't know. I mean, it's strange. And I think, if she shows up in the cast list for the next movie, I don't think that gives anything away, because I can also see, a screenwriter going, I really want to open the next film with a scene of her and Ethan like confirming that they're, or no, like either way, either yes, that, or you open it with them like, on an actual date, like flirting and lovey-dovey and blah, blah, blah. And then, smash cut to the realization again that she's dead. Mm-hmm. Right. And you make that concrete and she's just going to appear in some flashbacks, here and there for context. I could totally see that. So her being in the next film doesn't necessarily mean she's alive. But I mean, I think the most likely thing is that she is alive. but I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. So we'll see. I mean, but I think it's highly likely that she's alive.
I think that's a strong reason you just gave. Like, her and Ethan came up with a plan. We don't know it yet, but it's crucial to the way the entity operates to allow it to think that it's correctly anticipating the way that events will unfold, so that no one's the wiser and they can sort of figure out how to manipulate it. I just don't know how she moves through life without the entity scanning her, unless she grabs a mask and walks around as a different person, And maybe that's part of it. Maybe Ethan's like, once I pick you up and once we put you in the body bag, I'm going to slip you this mask. I want you to break out of the morgue. You're dressed like my mom, and no one, that's it. No one's going to know.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I want to say, is it a clue that the machine that makes the masks died on Ethan's mask because it had already made a mask prior to her mask? Maybe.
It's a single-use mask machine.
It's like, we can make 2 masks and that's it. But they didn't do anything. Like, I thought for sure we had enough to do 2 masks, which would have totally given it away.
What happened to all of our putty?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Then okay. But I don't know. I mean, it's just so... I think in order to pull one over on the entity has to believe that it's winning, has to believe that it's ahead. But who does she swap with? I don't know. Right? Like, who is she masquerading as? I have no clue. Yeah. Because I think that would be the next important piece, is who is she? And unless, I don't know. And we also know that in this series, women only put on women masks and men only put on men masks. That's the only way that this works.
It would be cool if they decided to finally break that rule, basically, and just have some henchman that's in the film and that's in Dead Reckoning, at the midpoint, that the dude just pulls off his mask and it's her, and everyone's like, "Holy shit!
Oh my gosh!" Yeah. Or here's how you know the series has gone off the rails. The entity is Ilsa Faust.
Oh no.
She's uploaded her consciousness, and the consciousness became too smart and said, "I have to kill my body."
Yeah. Do you think they'll end the series after this? Because I thought this was the end of the series, and then I read that Cruise was like, "Oh, I'll do more movies as Ethan Hunt." It's like,
yeah. I was under the impression that it was that this was going to end the series, these 2 films. And I think bringing Kittredge back kind of led me down that path more, to think so we're bringing out all of our alums and referencing all the past, and, we're going to finally end it. And I could even see them saying Haley Atwell is the new Ethan Hunt, moving forward. I can see all of this happening, but I think I think I'm mistaken. I don't think they've actually officially said that part 2 ends it.
McQuarrie apparently told Fandango that part 2 will not end the series.
Okay,
they're
great.
developing ideas for future installments.
Okay, so there you go. But I would like to say, based on conversations you and I have had on the podcast before, they do need to figure out how they're going to end this thing.
Yeah.
And it's not because I love for my favorite franchises to end, but I do like for stories to receive a conclusion and not just peter out because your actors got too old or died.
Exactly. To me, Tom Cruise seems to be too old to do these movies after part 2. It just feels, I don't know. I mean, a 2-part, who does a 2-part movie and then doesn't end your series? What franchise has done that?
I feel like they can have their cake and eat it too by promoting Cruise to the head of the IMF.
Right.
And he shows up in each film to give orders. He's the secretary, and he's giving the orders and meeting the people. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is, and this is Tom Cruise's one day on set. He's producing all of them for sure, but you can still bring Benji back. You can still bring Luther back. I don't care, whatever. But the logical choice is it's Haley Atwell's franchise.
and that's fine. It's just one of those things like we've talked about recently. Like, why though? Just end it. Like, I mean, obviously the answer is money, but like, let's just, just for story's sake, like there's no good story reason to keep it going.
No,
like in the way that people will watch it. Like it feels like a cynical cash grab.
Right. And Haley Atwell's great. Like
She
she's
is
great
great.
in the movie. She's got charisma. But she's not Tom Cruise. And what I mean by that is nobody on earth is Tom Cruise. And
that's why the franchise works right now.
The franchise only works because of Tom Cruise, and you can have him on set for a day and he's the secretary and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, one of the reasons that people watch these things in the first place is because we know we're going to get Tom Cruise doing some crazy stunt.
Yes.
And I don't think Haley Atwell is going to do that.
Right.
Maybe she is. I don't know. Who knows? But like, remember, I feel like they tried this once before. Like, wasn't at one point they said Brandt was going to take over the franchise?
Right.
And it's like, so you've kind of tried this before. And the truth is you can't escape Tom Cruise. You just can't. And, I don't know, man.
He's all consuming.
He's all consuming.
I kind of thought Brandt would be in this movie at some point, but he's not.
Yeah.
Maybe
I wonder if he'll be in the next.
Maybe. Again, his name's not on the thing, but
I feel like if they are going to end Ethan's story, which is possible that the franchise continues without Ethan.
Yeah.
If they are going to end Ethan's story, I feel like it'd be great to have a lot of like the alums back and have like, Anthony Hopkins shows up. I don't know if we need to get Thandie Newton back, but like, Maggie Q.
I don't think she's going to come back.
Yeah, right. Reese Myers, like all of these people like popping back in for like a day to do a thing. What was that one guy from Mission Impossible 2 that helped? It was before Benji. He was kind of a Benji. Like bring all these people back and like, best of, and then you end your series with a film that directly references the most famous thing and all these things, which is Tom Cruise suspended from the ceiling, hovering over the floor, and that's in your last film. You reference, you do that again, you have all your alums and you call it a day. But yeah, man, I don't know where you go from here, honestly. Because I don't know where Dead Reckoning 2 is going to go.
Yeah.
So when we review that, which hopefully won't be too long, but could be.
Yeah, could be.
I hope that ends this story satisfactorily and gives some hint at what's to come.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk very briefly about why part 2 might be delayed.
Yes. Yeah. Which is the SAG-AFTRA has now on strike, just like the WGA. And so everything that was shooting, was preparing to shoot, is shooting. Everything's paused. Deadpool 3 is paused. Poor Hugh Jackman has to keep up his physique indefinitely now because
you never know when you're going back to work.
The studios have indicated that they're not even going to come to the table until late October. They think they can wait everyone out. So that just means that everything in the pipeline, there's like, I read a thing that like, Yellowstone is getting put on CBS this fall because CBS doesn't have programming now to put on the air. So they're yanking the show and putting reruns on there.
Interesting.
So if you don't have streaming and you ever want to watch Yellowstone, now's your chance. But I wouldn't even reward the networks for making a decision like that because they're not paying their writers and actors a fair wage. So
correct.
Yeah, but that includes this film. Like this film can't do, I mean, the most they can do is develop ideas for stunts. But even to me, like that's sort of is akin to screenwriting for these films. So
there are some movies. There was one that I heard about recently. I can't remember what it was, but it was like they were, I don't know what it was. It was the Gladiator sequel that Ridley Scott's doing. That they were going to continue shooting that, but just shoot with like stand-ins and stunts and that sort of thing until like they're going to shoot as much as they can, shoot their B-roll, shoot all this stuff.
So
and it's like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Because you've already started.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think Dead Reckoning Part 2 had started. Mm-mm. So they're not at the point where they can pick up a camera and start going. And also your director is your writer and he's going to strike, probably regardless. And so anyway, yeah, it's interesting that Part 1 was delayed because of COVID and Part 2 is now being delayed because of the strike.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I mean, but it makes sense, and the strike is important, and nobody would dare cross the picket line to shoot Mission Impossible Part 2, so they need to resolve this thing so we can get some films back on track, because we all know what happened during the writer's strike of '07, where TV and film really suffered.
Yeah,
that's when you start getting like storylines on Friday Night Lights that don't make sense because it's not actual WGA writers writing. And then you have things like Transformers 2 written during the writer's strike by people who sucked.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of things that are delayed from it. I mean, obviously Dead Reckoning Part 2 was supposed to start production again after the promotional window for Mission 7 was done, which would have been by now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's so I don't even think they got any filming done. I mean, if they got any filming done, it was like a week.
Yeah, right. Yep.
But I mean, the strike happened Friday? Was that on Friday?
Yeah.
Thursday or Friday, something like that. And, so now I could like the Oppenheimer 2, Oppenheimer 2,
The Revenge.
Yeah, the Revenge. Oppenheimer cast left the UK. Like they were like, what? Oh no, they didn't. Well, they did, but I think I heard that they moved the screening up an hour.
Yep.
So that they could appear on the red carpet before the strike officially happened, and they just had to dip out of there.
I think I read, and I could be wrong, but I think I read that they actually went into the theater and it was like during the beginning moments of like the introduction and that sort of thing that they all got up and left, and Chris Nolan was on stage and he acknowledged you see all these people leaving. That's because, and explain the situation, and it's now enjoy our film. Bye.
Right.
And,
exactly.
But yeah, I think that's how it went down.
Well, regardless, obviously it's a shitty situation that was not created by the people striking. It's created by studios and corporations making bad decisions and thinking they can get away with it. Stuff that we've been talking about for years. And so, yeah, I mean, this film is supposed to come out next June, I think, or July, but it could be delayed now at that. And everyone should be used to sliding release dates now because COVID did that. Deadpool 3 was supposed to finish shooting in September, and that movie is supposed to come out next May or something. And it's probably going to get a release date slid, and not because of the pandemic, but because of strikes. It's just been a crazy few years of release dates moving, and it's a sign of the times, man. It's just lots of movies you watch, you just sort of forget that's a big pipeline of people making those. And if some of those people are getting screwed over, there's only so long it's going to persist before they stop. And then you don't get your stuff. And the only thing working against them is the lagging indicator of the average person may not feel this for several months until there's not anything new to watch.
Right.
And that's kind of what the studios are counting on. They're like, yeah, well, it's going to be months before the average consumer feels the effects of this. And we've also got other stuff we've already bought, but haven't produced. Although with no actors, how are you going to shoot it?
Well, that's the thing. Even if you're in post, I mean, how do you do ADR?
Yeah.
Right. You can't
poorly.
Yeah. Right. You hire sound-alikes or not.
Yeah. You just get one of the editors to do it. But I would think that their union would be like, no, we're not doing any.
Yeah, we're not stepping in doing that.
We're not stepping in and do anything. It's just shit. Who can we get to do something that's not their job around here?
Right, exactly. Why can't we get more things done for less money? I don't understand.
Why can't we overwork people more?
Yes. It really wouldn't surprise me though if somebody didn't think, why don't we just get the editors to step in and act for a minute?
Right. Let's get them. Let's get them to, hey, Steven, you want to write a movie and star in it?
Yeah. Hey, you work at craft services. I think you'd be a great writer.
Yeah.
We're having some issues with these lines. Can you help us?
Your handwriting on my coffee cup is really great. I imagine you also write words well.
Yes.
With resonance.
Yeah, pretty good I am with them words there.
We need you to do some ADR for Margot Robbie. Okay.
All right, here we go. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie.
I was going to say the same thing.
Ken, I love you. Thank you for coming over to my Barbie dream house tonight.
Want to go for a ride? Sure, Ken. Climb in.
I would love to see this movie.
Why? By the way, in that song, why is Ken like? I picture him like Rolf. Like ever since that song came out, like hi, like how you doing, Barbie? Hi, Ken. You want to go for a ride? Like I was like, that's not Ken.
That's Rolf. That's Rolf's voice.
Like, don't trust this. Don't get in that car, Barbie. That's not Ken. Can you see his face?
Right.
You want to go for a ride, Barbie?
Yeah, I'm Ken.
Stranger danger. Yeah, come on. You want to hear like the Michael Keaton, like Barbie, no, like
yeah.
Hey, you want to go for a ride, Barbie? Some grease.
This is a great sketch idea. While all these films are on strike, we're getting the same guy. It's one dude. And he's doing all of the movies.
It won't matter that he crossed the picket line. We're going to pay him so much he'll never have to work again.
Yes, that's right.
Studio.
Ironically, he gets more money than all of the actual actors and writers combined.
It's true. Well, we would meet your demands, but we already paid twice all of your salaries to this one guy, Steve.
Howdy, I'm Steve.
Steve, you want to say a few words? You want to go for a ride?
Howdy, I'm Steve. This is my impression of Leonardo in TMNT Rise of the Mutants or whatever. All right, here we go. Hey, brothers and sensei, let's go fight crime with the Shredder. How was that? Was that good? Yeah, it was great, Steve. Thank you so much for filling in. We appreciate it.
Happy to be of service. or no, well, he would say something folksy like, yep, much obliged.
Much obliged. Another day, another dollar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Never know what you're gonna get when you wake up in the morning where the wind blows you. You know, you just step on out your door and just say yes. That's my motto, you know. You just step on out that door and just say yes. He wins all of the categories at the next Academy Awards. And best supporting actress goes to Steve from Craft Services.
You'd have one actual actor attend it, like Jack Nicholson's the only real actor there, and he just goes, it's just quiet. He just goes, boo. And every other seat is filled, like Steve's in the audience, and every seat is filled with a life-size cutout of Steve. So if you cut to the audience, it's just a uniform.
A ton of Steves. Like one's in a chef hat and one's in like a pirate costume. These are his headshots.
Steve does a funny skit where he walks on stage and slaps himself in the face after insulting his own wife.
Oh, this is awesome.
All right, everybody. We should probably stop.
No.
All right. Well, cool. All right, Dustin. Well,
all right, man.
All righty. Are you seeing Oppenheimer?
Possibly. Yeah. Okay. I've made no concrete plans, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I'm not seeing Barbie.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we will.
I don't think I can go see Barbie alone. Like, I don't think that's something I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. But like, I asked my wife, I was like, do you have any interest in Barbie? And she's like, And I'm like, okay, well, if you do, we'll go. If not, I'll see it eventually.
I'm curious how the whatever 11-mile long Oppenheimer reel.
Yeah.
Did you see a picture of that thing, by the way?
I did.
That was insane.
Let's make a prediction here. Which one's going to win the weekend?
Ooh.
I have my bet.
I do too. What do you think?
All right, on the count of three at the same time.
Who's winning? Okay.
Yeah. So it's 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Right. 1, 2, 3, go.
Barbie.
Yeah.
Barbie's gonna win. It's just it has more mass appeal.
Yeah, I think you have to think about it like this. Oppenheimer's gonna sell a bunch of tickets. Barbie's gonna sell 2 for every one. James is gonna go see Oppenheimer, and then James's wife is gonna make him see Barbie.
Yeah.
So he's buying 3 tickets that weekend.
He is.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. I mean, like it's critically, who knows which will do whatever.
Sure.
But yeah, I think Barbie's gonna win the weekend.
I think so too.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Unless Dial of Destiny just like really
it's a resurgence.
ramps up its game.
Hey, Mission might stay on top, you know.
It could.
We don't know.
It could.
So
what if Harrison Ford, just out of spite, buys all the tickets for Dial of Destiny in the country?
him and Steve.
Yeah, him and Steve.
You want to go for a ride? Okay.
It's really nice to meet you, Harry.
Nice to
Don't
meet
call
you
me
too.
Harry.
We kind of sound the same. I don't come for my job, you son of a bitch. I worked hard to get where I am.
You're just more sarcastic than I am, Harry. That's all it is. Mine's gradually becoming Blake Clark.
Mine's becoming painful.
Like it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from, howdy, Woody. I'm a slinky dog.
Yeah, mine's descending into my boucher. All right, everybody. Cool. Next week we'll have something. Well, actually, next week we're scheduled out. So the week after that we might have something. So yeah, next week I'm not gonna tell you. Damn it.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
Yeah, it's a surprise. So all right.
We have a surprise guest. It's Steve from Craft Services.
We've been hyping him up.
We do an interview. We do a full interview.
It was recorded before the strike, so
yes.
Steve, not that Steve cares, but
yeah, no, he's not a card carrying member of anything except the NRA.
The QAnon. All right, everybody.
All right, good night.
Good night. NRA.